All right, go ahead.
Thank you.
I call to order this meeting of Pierce County Charter Review Commission on March 2nd at 6 p.m. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Lisa Boyd,
Here.
George Consuelo, Mason Fletcher,
Here.
Kate Yin, Sharon Hannick,
Excused.
Caleb Heimlich,
Also excused.
Elizabeth Herrera,
Oh, she's okay, I think.
She,
Stand up.
George is coming. Oh, there she goes. Okay.
Elizabeth Herrera,
I'm here.
she was going to be virtual, so I don't know if.
I see her down at the very bottom, EHERRE1, so.
She's signing on right now. Here.
we can circle back. Billy Joe Hendrickson,
Here.
Jay Hunter,
Here.
Martha Lance. Here. Justin Layton,
Here.
Justin, we couldn't hear you if you.
Here.
perfect, thank you. Brenda Liggins,
Here.
Brenda Malowski. Here. Jerome O'Leary,
Here.
Holly Rogie. Here. Rujana Rohr. Here. Devin Rydell Kelly,
Here.
Troy Surratt,
Here.
Jen Marie Strickling,
Here.
Judson Willis.
Present.
Back to Elizabeth Herrera,
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
and Kelsey Behrens. Here. That concludes roll.
I have 18, is that correct, Clerk? We have 19 members here, so we need a quorum. 20. Oh. There you go. Welcome, Commissioner Consuelo. Please mark Commissioner Consuelo as present. Thank you. Right, so for our meeting tonight, unless there's an objection, I would like to move our presenters up to position number 5 on our agenda tonight. We have several folks here with us and we want to make sure they are able to share this evening. So with no objection, I would like to move to approve the agenda as amended by moving our speakers up to number 5 on the agenda.
I second.
I hear, who was that? Commissioner Malowski seconded. Any discussion? Oh, we need that.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Willis, District 3, I move to amend the motion by striking item 7A, which is now being moved to 5.
Yes, so let me just say, you're moving, we haven't approved that yet, so let's keep it where it is on the agenda. That's, yeah.
Okay, yes, I move to amend by striking item 7.
So we have a motion to strike item 7A from the agenda. Any discussion? Commissioner Evans,
So when you wanted to move 7 up to 5, was that just 7A or 7B as well? How many of those percenters did you want to move up?
all of 7,
All of 7?
but you're actually,
I don't know. Commissioner Willis understood that.
I think, Commissioner Willis, you are moving to just strike 7A, correct?
Yes, Chair, that's correct.
So would you like to speak to that, Commissioner Willis?
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Excuse me as my voice is literally about left the room here. I'd like to speak in favor of the motion.
Can you please bring the mic closer?
Apologies for that. I need to speak twice as loud. Commissioner Willis, District 3, I'd like to speak in favor of the amendments. The item proposed for removal is a book authored by 2 political science academics who have published research is consistently and demonstrated framed as progressive or left of center perspective. Their work frames county sheriffs broadly as threats to democracy and racial equality. And the commission was established under R 2025-101, which is for the neutral constitutional review of the Pierce County Charter, not to receive advocacy scholarship aligned with one side of national political debate about law enforcement. I submitted a written objection to you, Chair, prior to this meeting on these grounds, including this item compromises the impartiality of the commission's deliberations and does a disservice to the constituents of all 7 of our districts present. Thank you.
Additional discussion? Commissioner Rydell Kelly?
Yeah, I'm the Commissioner Rydell Kelly, District 4. I'm the commissioner who invited our guest authors for the evening. I read their book last year and was thoroughly impressed by it. I think it's a really exemplary case of mixed methods, historical research, survey data, and interviewing hundreds and hundreds of sheriffs over a 10-year period, including folks from a wide variety of backgrounds. That will be very informative for how we think through the sheriff's office. And it is an objective, analytically rigorous text that has received a lot of praise and acclaim, and I'm really excited to have them here. And I don't think that it is necessarily a highly politicized position. Part of our work is to listen to expert testimonial and academic testimonial. We've already had a couple of those examples here with the history of the charter. And I think this is totally in keeping with what we want to do in our work here. So I would encourage the commissioners to vote against this amendment and to keep the professors on the agenda, especially being that they put a lot of work into the slide deck in this presentation tonight. Thank you.
Seeing no additional discussion, I would like to have all in favor of striking agenda item 7A from the agenda. Please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Any abstain? All right, so that motion fails. We will then move back to my request for a motion to approve the agenda with the amendment of moving the presenters up to position 5.
So moved.
So we have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Please say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Okay. Wait, what did I say? Sorry,
I
I didn't mean to say that. Ignore that.
Any discussions? All right, the agenda has been approved as amended. So now we would like to approve the minutes from February 9th. And I would entertain a motion to approve these minutes as presented in your packet.
So moved.
Sorry.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Commissioner Consuelo?
Sorry, thank you, Madam Chair. I realized that in the roll call, my last name is spelled with an S, it's spelled with a Z. If we could get that amended, please.
We can absolutely do that. So
Thank
we
you.
will amend the minutes to correctly spell Commissioner Consuelo's last name.
Need a motion.
Any additional discussion?
Don't you need a motion to do that?
Would you like to move?
I make a motion to amend the meeting minutes to edit my last name to fit it correctly. Thank you.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of amending the minutes as suggested, please say aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, and abstentions. Great, so the minutes have been approved. We will now move to our presentations, which we moved up in our agenda. So first, we have our presenters, Emily Ferris, and is it Myra Holman? I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. I know that Commissioner Rydell Kelly did a little bit of an introduction last week. I don't know if there's anything else you would like to say, or we can just have you jump in. All right, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Oh, Commissioner O'Leary.
Commissioner O'Leary, District 1. I didn't notice this until just now, but do we not have public comment tonight?
We do have public comment. We moved presentations to before public comment.
I see. Okay, excuse me. I apologize.
No, thank you for checking. All right. Off to our presenters, seeing no other, Commissioner Consuelo, do you,
My bad.
and Commissioner Rohrer.
Commissioner Rohrer, can you provide clarity for like how long the presentation is? Is there a question and answer after? So that we stay on track for this meeting.
Absolutely, thank you for asking that question. So all of our presenters have been given half an hour throughout the entirety of all of our presentation invites. Not everyone needs to take that amount of time, and that includes questions.
Includes questions. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other comments in the room, off to our wonderful presenters for tonight. Thank you so much again for being here.
Hello, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, excellent. All right, so my name is Miria Holman. I'm a professor in the Hobby School of Public Affairs at the University of Houston, and I'm here with Emily Ferris, my co-author and long-term collaborator, who's a professor at Texas Christian University in political science. And we're going to talk to you about some research that we've done about sheriffs generally in the United States and how that applies specifically to your county. Could we get to the next slide, please?
It's on the way.
So we are both political scientists in training. We both have PhDs, and we have collectively been studying sheriffs for about 15 years now. We wrote a book about the politics of the office entitled Power of the Badge that was published by the University of Chicago Press in 2024. We've written more than half a dozen academic articles. We regularly talk to the press. I've given testimony before state legislative commissions before. So we are deeply immersed in thinking about sheriffs as an interesting and important political and policy office in the United States. We continue to research sheriffs today, even after the publication of our book. We've thought a lot about, for instance, elections and accountability in the office, as well as continuing research about mechanisms like civilian oversight boards. And we're really excited to talk to you today about sheriffs and the commission's discussion of the idea of changing sheriff from elected to appointed. Next slide, please. All right, so some very basic information. It may be that everybody knows this, but there's the sheriff is a very interesting office, so we want to make sure that everybody has sort of a base set of information about the office. So in the United States, almost every county has a sheriff, which means that there's about 3,116 sheriffs in the United States. Give or take a few depending on changes at any point. Sheriffs are considered in most counties the chief law enforcement officer of their county, and sheriffs make up more than half of law enforcement agencies in the United States. In the context of sort of thinking about the sheriff's role in history, sheriffs are one of the oldest official positions in the United States, and in particular, one of the oldest elected positions in the United States. Next slide, please. So sheriffs, those 3,000 plus sheriffs vary enormously in their responsibilities, but often sheriffs hold broad authority and discretion in their positions. Similar to a police chief, sheriff's duties often include, but not always, criminal law enforcement. This is particularly true in counties like Pierce, where there is an area of an unincorporated area, or in rural counties. And also often sheriffs are chief law enforcement agents and criminal law enforcers within the context of contracts with small towns or other cities where the sheriff provides law enforcement for a municipality. Sheriffs also, and this is true in Pierce County, often have the portfolio of managing the county jail. So in addition to the responsibilities allocated to police chiefs, sheriffs also have this additional set of responsibilities around being a jailer. They also, as they do in Pierce County, serve legal processes such as evictions, and in some places they provide security for the courts. Also in other states, sheriffs are tax collectors. Sometimes they're coroners. Sometimes they have additional responsibilities beyond these. And then in some particular offices, sheriff's portfolio of policies is highly constrained, and the sheriff does very little except for, say, manage courthouse security. So it's a very interesting office that has enormous variation in what the policy portfolio is for it. Next slide, please. In many ways, one of the most unique characteristics of sheriffs is the elected nature of the office. This makes it not just unique in the United States, but around the world. Most criminal justice positions around the world are not elected positions. Most criminal justice positions in the United States are not elected positions. With very few exceptions, other countries do not elect their local law enforcement leaders. Instead, they appoint them. Next slide, please. There is a lot of variation, even though sheriffs generally are elected. There's an enormous amount of variation in what exactly that means. So as you are probably well aware, some places do appoint a sheriff or use an alternative configuration. In some places, sheriffs serve 4 years. In other places, they serve 2 years. Sometimes it's a partisan position. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes there's term limits. Sometimes the position is elected on cycle with, say, congressional or presidential elections. Sometimes it's off cycle. All of this is to say that the office, even though it often is elected, there's a lot of variation that happens in what that election actually means. Next slide, please. All right, so Pierce County Sheriff, like many other counties, the county has long had a sheriff. Sheriffs stand at core points of conflict and policy change in the county. There's regularly been controversies over the county, and sheriff elections have often been uncompetitive. So in these characteristics, Pierce is very similar to other places. Next slide, please. So just a very quick overview, because we're history nerds and we think this stuff is really interesting. Pierce County gets a sheriff when Pierce County moves from a county configuration that looks like this to, next slide, please. A county configuration that looks like this. In the mid 1800s, Pierce County gets its first sheriff and has had a sheriff since. Next slide, please. And so the sort of most modern version of Pierce County is one that has had a sheriff both elected and appointed throughout time. This office has had a lot of continuity in what it looks like. Next slide, please. Very early on in Pierce County, the sheriff was given responsibility over the jail. Here are some jail records from Pierce County archives, where the sheriff was responsible for keeping records of who's in the jail in the mid to late 1800s. Next slide, please. And This is consistent in many ways with broader patterns in US history. From the founding, sheriffs were an imported office from the crown. Colonial sheriffs first represented the office of the crown. Colonial pressure changed these positions to elected offices. And then as sheriffs moved west, the characteristic of elections followed them. Throughout the 19th century, we see sheriffs play key points of enforcement for slavery and then later Jim Crow. Sheriffs also play key roles in westward expansion, including native genocide. For example, in your area, Nisqually Chief Leshkee is executed by hanging, and the sheriff's office is the office that actually carries out that execution. The sheriff at that point was very reluctant to engage in this and actually tried to have himself arrested to try to escape that responsibility unsuccessfully. Throughout the 20th century, prohibition, enforcement, guns, and cars all dramatically increased the size and work of sheriff's offices. The war on drugs also leads to large expansions in county jails and large expansions in what counties spend on sheriff's offices, so that we get to the point where in Pierce County today, the sheriff's office is the largest source of expenditures, both through enforcement and the jail. Next slide, please. In Pierce County, we have examples of this, right? So here is Sheriff Joe Desmond in 1924, confiscating stills in the county. Next slide, please. And we even have an example of Tom Desmond confiscated a still, and then it was stolen out of the county courthouse the next night. And then he fires 2 deputy sheriffs for gross carelessness after that. Next slide, please. Pierce County is also similar to sheriffs in many other places in that sheriffs have courted controversy and even gone to jail. Y'all, I'm sure, are very familiar with Sheriff Janovich, who goes to jail for racketeering after running sort of a massive criminal enterprise out of the sheriff's office. Next slide, please. And here Emily is going to take over and talk a little bit about sheriffs themselves and their arguments for elections and how we see Pierce County fitting into this.
Hi, everyone. So sheriffs make a big deal about the fact that they are elected, that they think this is important sources of their legitimacy and serve as a democratic check on their behavior. The National Sheriff's Association has a white paper that makes kind of 4 broad, loose kind of arguments that I put together here that argue in favor of electing sheriffs. And so we're going to go through each of these one by one and kind of just provide some more context and incorporate our research into these 4 arguments that I'll explain one by one. Next slide, please. So even though sheriffs make a big deal of their elections, our research collectively in our book questions whether or not elections actually do serve as the kind of democratic accountability that sheriffs are articulating. And in general, our research shows fairly repeatedly that sheriff elections often fall short of what are the lofty goals of elections for that. And so I'll talk about that research in the context of the sheriff's arguments themselves. Next slide, please. So the first argument that the National Sheriff's Association makes, which I might refer to as the NSA, that's a different NSA than perhaps we're used to from history, but this is the National Sheriff's Association. First, they make the argument that electing sheriffs provides citizens the right to choose. Our research shows that for the most part, sheriff elections tend to be really low information elections for voters, and they are generally uncompetitive, which raises some questions about how much information citizens have, as well as how much choice is going on. Typically, elected sheriffs are winning re-election at very high rates. Typically, also, the choice between candidates is quite limited as the pool of potential challengers is shallow. And our work talks about the ways in which sheriffs themselves also keep it shallow, because typically your average challenger to the sheriff is going to come from within inside their office themselves, right? Deputies or under sheriffs are going to be the ones running against their own bosses. This creates some real challenges and conflicts beyond just kind of the notions of democratic accountability to even just like accountability in the office, right? And accountability within the ranks, because challengers sometimes have to risk their own careers to run. And in the book, we talk about times in which where sheriffs have either fired or demoted or made the jobs more difficult of those who have challenged them in the office. Next slide, please. And so here you can see some of our data that shows that only about 1/3 of elections actually are real open seats. When it comes to that, over half are having elections, right, with the incumbent running for re-election, and oftentimes they're winning as well too. Next slide, please. So then the second argument that the NSA makes is that when you elect sheriffs, you avoid kind of undue influence with other county officials who might otherwise be appointing them, right? And we agree that sheriffs are correct that they have this large degree of autonomy that makes their office really unique. But it makes it stand out in a way that doesn't really match the way any other office operates within kind of our constitutional system of governments, right? So nearly all other elected officials operate within a system of kind of separated powers with checks and balances, right? So the Pierce County Commission crafts the legislation, the county executive then is responsible for executing that policy. With having this separation of kind of powers in the way that it's configured with an elected sheriff who's independently elected of a county commission, this causes some challenges, right? Because unlike these other positions, sheriff's responsibilities really can span executive, judicial, and legislative responsibilities, meaning that they get to set policy, enforce policy, and even adjudicate, right, to the appropriateness of the policy within their domain without those kinds of checks of the other offices to that. Next slide, please. Right, and you know the argument that autonomy is a good thing can be something that we could question, right? When misconduct occurs, particularly in places where removal powers for sheriffs are very limited or difficult, right? That can cause challenges to removing a sheriff when misconduct occurs. It also leads to a lot of conflict, we find. So if county commissions are responsible for setting budget, right, for determining resources or spending, this can set up some really expensive conflicts, as I'm sure Pierce County Commissioners and the charter is aware, right, of having local officials conflicting over policy, resources, and spending. Next slide, please. And so then the third argument that the NSA makes is that electing sheriffs is consistent with our history, right? As Miriam mentioned, sheriffs actually came to America.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a point of order, please.
Can you please state your point?
My point is that there is no point to this. It is not objective in any way. It's similar to the presentation 2 weeks ago. It gives us a slanted perspective that is presented as objective. This is clearly biased. Their studies rely on self-reported data that does not promote any sort of objective analysis. And really, to have this in front of so many public, it is misleading and essentially misinformation of what we are planning to do right now with this commission and determine whether we elect our sheriff or whether we propose an appointed sheriff. Their analysis is all too convenient for their conclusions, and I don't think that the public gains anything. I don't think this commission gains anything from hearing their analysis on whether we should elect or appoint our sheriff, because the conclusion's already there. They want an appointed sheriff because they don't trust the voters to make the right choice. It's very sad, but I hear disenfranchisement of voters. I hear patronizing voters of low information. And so to me, this is not worth anyone's time, and it's not helpful in our discussion, and it's not helpful to us as we try to promote the best ideas for this county.
So your point is not well taken. And I would like to move on with the presentation.
I second.
I have. Point of order.
Second.
This is Holly Rogie, and I am in agreement with Commissioner Fletcher, and with District 3.
So
they're
don't
making
need to
life.
actually- Point of order, the only response to her response in overruling is to appeal. You need to file an appeal.
Okay, how do I appeal? Just say that you appeal.
I appeal.
All right, so then we will take a vote on whether or not my point not taken.
Second.
Can I get a second? Oh, sorry. I don't hear a second to that appeal, so we will move on with the presentation.
Point of order.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that the time that presenters had remains to be 30 minutes, even though of the interruption.
Point well taken, thank you. Presenters, thank you so much. We're back to you.
Shall I start again?
Yes, please, thank you.
Okay, great. And so, right, the history of the office is actually an appointed one, and it became elected over time, right? So the very first sheriff elected is in Virginia in 1652, but we see over the kind of first 2 centuries really of kind of from colonial to being states, that states adopt sheriffs as elected positions at different points in time, right? So 38 states do elect sheriffs at the beginning of their statehood or soon as they become territories, but 9 states adopt sheriff elections after statehood, and then 3 states have never adopted elected sheriffs. Next slide, please.
We're just dealing with some technical things, you'll be right there.
Okay, and so then the fourth final argument of the sheriffs, right? The National Sheriff's Association is that electing sheriffs provides for stability and continuity of the office, right? We've talked about that it does provide some continuity, that sheriffs emerge from their own office. Sheriffs also, we talk about in the book, serve longer terms, particularly when compared to police chiefs. Their average term is longer. This can be positive in that it brings that continuity, but one challenge of that is that it can then limit new ideas and expertise brought into the office, right? Elections really don't necessarily encourage selection based on professional qualifications, credentials, or track records necessarily in the same ways that appointments might. Instead, right, it's based on electoral popularity or fundraising ability. Appointment might also, if changed, right, allow for greater diversity in leadership. Sheriffs, this kind of stability and continuity of office means that the office has changed very little in terms of its diversity. So 90% of sheriffs today are about white men. This is down only from 91% in 2012. Only 2% of sheriffs are women across the country, right? And this too, we think, while it does provide continuity of office, raises some challenges, particularly around issues of representation and community trust that is needed to do the job effectively. Next slide, please. So if not elections, what are the alternative? As Miriam mentioned, most other law enforcement positions in the United States, as well as all around the world, are appointed leaders, not elected leaders. And so appointments are a different model that you all could look at. Next slide, please. So 2 states appoint the sheriffs, but sheriffs are not necessarily a great kind of model perhaps for peers to look at for those state decisions, right? Because those states are states where our sheriff offices, where, as Miriam mentioned, they have really kind of minimal duties. So Rhode Island and Hawaii, both of those have sheriffs who are appointed positions, but they have really kind of limited responsibilities, mostly around kind of courthouse security. Next slide, please. But there are a number of counties across a couple of different states that have a county sheriff with similar responsibilities to Pierce County that do have either an appointed position or that alternatively configured position. So Colorado, Kansas, New York, Pennsylvania, and Washington all have counties where there's an appointed county sheriff. I have more details in the back of the slides about each of those counties if the commission is interested in looking at it. I won't go through them each individually, but here are some kind of like like general ideas of them, right? So they tend to take one of three approaches. They tend to be appointed by either a local executive or perhaps the local executive in council, but council or the commission always confirms them. They are appointed positions with kind of traditional duties, similar to what Pierce County has looked like in the past, right? With an appointed sheriff. That would be in Pennsylvania. There's one in New York. King County would be one similar to this. There could be an appointed sheriff position, but there's a division of duties. So they're within some kind of larger agency. So Denver is within a larger agency of public safety where there's kind of divided out roles for public safety in different divisions. And that would be an example of an appointed position for that. Or there's appointed positions that aren't necessarily called sheriffs. They've taken the language of police chiefs or some other kind of term. Broomfield in Colorado or Riley in Kansas would be another example. Those tend to have traditional duties as well too. They've just renamed and reorganized the position. Next slide, please. And the reality is that appointments happen all the time, whether or not kind of an official move. County commissions appoint sheriffs quite often. Individual sheriffs often are appointed to serve the remainders of terms that might be left open for some reason, right? For vacancy, retirement, resignation, or some other process, right? In this, meaning that county executives and commissions regularly are tasked with selecting new sheriffs. That sheriff then, once appointed, often goes to run for office and then is reelected, and they serve long tenures as well too. Next slide, please. Another option, of course, is for appointed boards. I'll maybe let Miria take back over here because she's written a second book on the question of appointed boards as well, and so I'll let her finish.
Yeah, so another option, an alternative to appointments or in addition to an appointment is some version of a civilian oversight authority. These are very rarely used for sheriffs. So, 9 out of 10 large cities have a civilian oversight board, but only 15% of sheriff's offices have them, and very few large sheriff's offices have them. 2 states, California and Maryland, have recently expanded access to civilian oversight boards for sheriffs, but that has happened in the last 5 years, so it'll be interesting to see. But that's an option. The research is very clear that civilian oversight boards are generally ineffective tools of police oversight. They don't seem to have impact on any of the outcomes that you might be interested in them having impacts on: police misconduct, violence against citizens, high quality policing, police closure rates, any of the outcomes that criminal justice outcomes we'd be interested in. There's also a second related option, which is an inspector general. These are used less commonly, but generally they are seen as more effective for some cities and counties. The importance there is that the inspector general is an independent and funded office that has investigative powers to oversee some version of police oversight. Next slide, please. So overall, the unique features of the Office of the Sheriff make it an interesting and important opportunity to think about meaningful accountability. Wide variations in the office exist across the United States. Counties have tried lots of different things in figuring out what governance works for them. And while sheriff's offices generally can be slow to change is possible. And we're really excited to answer your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you for presenting us with that information. We usually go through having folks turn up their name cards, and so I'll call on them so you know who is asking questions. So first we have Commissioner Malowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the presentation that was just given to us a couple of minutes ago. But I agree with Commissioner Fletcher. Some of the information seems a little bit one-sided and a little tainted for the public that's hearing that here. But my question to you is this: compared to elected positions here in Pierce County, we have a kind of a big flaw. So based on my research that I have found that majority of the stuff that we have in our charter, our county just doesn't like to abide by that. And that's some of the people in the county that works in this administration has informed me. So can you please help me to understand how appointed would be a beneficial for us here in Pierce County? Do you have anything in your research in regards to some discrepancies of those who are appointed also in this position so that we can properly compare both versus what you've given us?
Well, I will say that the slide deck, I would encourage you to look through the slides. There's information on each county of the examples of the appointed positions for each county and kind of what the office looks at like. The reality is that there aren't that many appointed sheriffs to really kind of get that much information, but Pierce itself has experience with an appointed sheriff, right, in your own history. One of the, perhaps to assuage some fears about, the selection mechanism changing, that one of the things that was obvious to me in researching the different appointed county sheriffs across the country, right, in these different counties, is that many of the sheriffs still are coming with some kind of experience, right, of law. They're all coming with experience of law enforcement. In fact, sometimes bringing new ideas and greater experience that we might see from other sheriffs elsewhere. They're also, a number of them are coming from within their own office still as well, too. And so with the appointment position, right, if Pierce were to decide to move to appointment, they could come up with a very transparent process, right, with clear kind of criteria on what would be an ideal sheriff for your county and your needs, right, to be able to select based on that. That might still end up with a sheriff who is coming up from within the own office, who would be somebody, right, that would also perhaps you would see as running an election and winning as well too. But I would encourage you to look at that slide deck and kind of see the different sheriffs across the country that are appointed. Maria, I don't know if you have anything.
The other comparison that is easy to make is to think about how sheriffs differ from appointed police chiefs. And so we know on a couple of key factors, sheriffs serve longer time in office and are more likely to have very little competition for their position as compared to police chiefs. Police chiefs have a different demographic characteristic, a different demographic profile than sheriffs do, and police chiefs are much more likely to have moved between agencies. So while 80% of sheriffs have experience in their own law enforcement agency before they're sheriffs, only 50% of police chiefs do. So we see a lot more movement. There's some research to suggest that produces sort of an influence of new ideas, innovation in policing agencies.
Commissioner Fletcher.
Thank you, Commissioner Fletcher, District 5. Professors, despite my contention that this is an exercise in futility and vacuous, I do appreciate your time to address this body. 2 questions. One, what is your basis for saying that elections is not an accountable way to have sheriffs? I mean, do you think taking the vote out of the hands of the people promotes accountability? Because I just find the opposite to be true. And my second question is, what does race have to do with enforcing the law? I just heard that in your discussion. I'm wondering whether the color of the person behind the badge enforces laws differently. Is that your contention?
To answer your first question, so in order for elections to promote accountability, there's a couple of requirements for those elections. So you have to have competition, right? So voters have to be able to make meaningful choices between candidates, and that's not generally characteristic of sheriff elections. So more than half of sheriff elections are uncontested. Incumbents very rarely face meaningful challenges at the ballot box, even when there have been significant problems in offices. And part of that is that sheriffs control the people that run against them. So this means that if you're somebody that works in a sheriff's office and you're interested in being a sheriff yourself, you're going to have to run against your boss. And in a lot of ways, that means that that boss could retaliate against you. And there's a lot of evidence that that happens among sheriffs. So in order for voters to actually make decisions, use the election to make a decision about who will serve them, there have to be multiple candidates on the ballot and voters have to be able to make actual choices between those candidates. That's not generally the characteristic of sheriff elections. At the same time, sheriffs, when they engage in bad behavior, the voters are often limited in their ability to do anything about that. So one of the principal differences between an appointed police chief and an elected sheriff is that if a police chief engages in misconduct or bad behavior, the county commission or the city council is able to remove that person from their office and replace them with somebody else very quickly. That's not necessarily the case when we think about sheriffs engaging in bad behavior. So we have to often wait for there to be investigations, for there to be a recall election. During that entire time, the sheriff continues to serve in the office. So there's this principal challenge of the office that it lacks the core component to make elections meaningful and a meaningful tool of accountability. To answer your question about race, we know that there's a lot of research to suggest that descriptive representation in policing agencies is important in shaping how people trust offices, the degree to which people think that the office is going to be responsive to them. And there is some evidence to suggest that descriptive representation is linked meaningfully to law enforcement outcomes. So as there are more people of color in law enforcement agencies, those agencies engage in less discriminatory policing practices.
All right, so we have one more question in the room and then we'll end this presentation for tonight in keeping with time. So Commissioner O'Leary.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Leary, District 1. Did I understand you to say that sheriff elections aren't contested?
The patterns generally in the United States are low levels of contestation, or when they're contested, the candidates are from very similar backgrounds, and voters have challenges in making choices between those candidates.
So I'd like to, just for the record, state that the last election for sheriff in 2024 in Pierce County hosted a woman and a man, and the difference between those two candidates was 2% or less of the total votes cast. So this illustration doesn't seem to hold true, at least in our last election, at all. And then secondarily, when you made the comment about running against your boss, wouldn't that same comment hold true if a staff member working for an elected position chose to run for a position that their boss was holding? And we've seen that with staff members running, they feel they're qualified and they're running for a position that their boss maybe holds. So I'm kind of confused with how you feel that's a deterrent in law enforcement different from any other elected position. Thank you.
Certainly some, yes, sir. Certainly some elections are competitive, right? They're competitive, particularly when there's an open race, so there's not an incumbent in the race, right? That we see competition go up. They're also competitive in places that have had more challenges, right? And so in areas where there's more controversy, you're going to see different candidates emerge and have more contestation as well around those, right? And another example would be, some other major offices like Los Angeles Angeles County is going to be another competitive place because they've had a number of kind of scandals and controversies over the years. And it's a very large office with a lot of responsibilities, right? And so the general trend is that it's not competitive. Certainly in Pierce County history, there's examples of non-competitive elections too. I'm sure we could go back in time as well. But I think, an outlier doesn't necessarily prove the rule here. But in terms of also thinking about staff running against boss, I agree. I think that it would be a real challenge, right? If you had a staffer running up against a county commissioner, or in a state legislative type of position, that's just not simply as common of a path for other offices for candidates to emerge from within their own office. This is something that is definitely unique to sheriffs in particular, that the candidates for sheriffs are emerging from within their own offices. That's not impossible for other offices. It's not as nearly as true for those other positions.
All right, so we do have one more question in the room, and then we will end presentation for tonight so that we can get to our next presenter. So Commissioner Willis, final
Appreciate
question.
that. Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Willis, District 3. I don't apologize. I don't remember who had said it. If it was Mrs. Ferris or Mrs. Holman, but in discussion with the police chiefs, you had mentioned something about they kind of both share similar and distinct roles. I was just curious if police chiefs share constitutional recognition. Thank you.
No. In general, no, police chiefs do not have, and I'll say this, not every sheriff in every state has constitutional recognition. 29 states have specific duties that they grant to the sheriff in their state constitution. Washington is one of them. But no, generally, police chiefs do not have, is not a constitutional office.
And I'll just add that even within the constitutional offices, that's still the range of kind of variation in elections, right? So some are appointed, some have longer terms, shorter terms, some have partisan terms, some have nonpartisan, some have term limits, some don't, right? And so we still have a range of kind of variation of what that selection mechanism looks like, even in constitutional offices as well, too.
All right, with that, I would love to thank our presenters for sharing information with us tonight, and thank you to Commissioner Rydell-Kelly for organizing this presentation. We deeply appreciate your time and energy. Thank you so much. All right, so our next presenter tonight is Councilmember Morrell from District 1. I'd like to invite him to come up to the podium, and if Commissioner O'Leary or Hetherington don't mind handing over that microphone, I would deeply appreciate it. Unless you'd like to stand, you're welcome to hold it if that would be.
That's fine, I'll hold it. I think I can do that. Again, for the record, I am Councilmember Dave Morrell, representing District 1. I'm in my final year of 2 terms, and it's been a pleasure to serve the folks of Pierce County, especially District 1, which is the best district in Pierce County, of course. But there again, I really appreciate the role of what the Charter Review Committee is going through. Back in 2006, I was on the committee. I've lived in Pierce County for 55 years and have held fire commissioner positions. I've held charter commissions. I've been a state representative, and I will finish out my career as a council member. So I've seen a lot of changes in the county. Before then, I worked for the auto dealers and the licensing companies. And that was when the whole wheels of corruption came off the bus. And as a 16-year-old, I ended up watching that happen to some of the companies that I worked for as a kid, teenager. So I'm very aware of the history of Pierce County, why we ended up doing what we did. When I was on the charter, we talked about everything. And we spent a lot of time just hashing through what we thought worked, didn't work. We interviewed a lot of people like you're doing tonight with me. And we heard a lot of good ideas. We put forward 9 amendments out of probably 40 that we discussed. And of those 9 amendments, I do believe 7 of them passed. And guess what one of them was? Electing the sheriff. And Paul Pastor, for you historians, is the only appointed elected sheriff in Pierce County. And he came before us and gave great testimony on why it should be an elected position. And one of the colleagues that I'd worked with, which was Kevin Wimsett, put forward the amendment. He was a Democrat, he served on the council, and he put forward the amendment. Of course, Executive John Landberg spoke against it. And so I always rib John about that. But it was great debates, interesting subject matter, and the people overwhelmingly agreed that that amendment to elect the sheriff should be enacted. So that was in the charter. I don't have any real set speech. I went through the charter again to refresh my mind on some of the things, some of the activities that I have seen and have been involved with just as a council member. One of the challenges that we have, and I think some of my other fellow council members will bring this forward, is the 50-week or the 50 meeting that we have to go through. It is challenging to meet those schedules. I would prefer it be 49, but I would also prefer that we have 2 in-district meetings. One of the challenges that we have is with 7 districts, we have a very diverse population of suburban, urban, and rural. I have very rural areas. Most people don't know that Crystal Mountain Ski Resort is in Pierce County. George knows. I followed him at 100 miles an hour from Crystal. You know, it's far-flung, a lot of these areas. I know District 3, out to Eatonville, all the way down Rainier, Ashford, LB. You know, those rural folk, a little different than the urban folk. And keep that in mind when you're going through this. Rules and procedures, like I say, the 50-week during the calendar year, I think that can be compressed a little bit. And there again, I wouldn't mind having 2 council district or council meetings in district. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, codification of ordinances. I truly think that ordinances should have a 2/3 vote on them. One of the things that we have, and I'll talk freely about it, and District 4 can come and tell everybody different. District 4 has no unincorporated area in their district, but yet District 4 is to vote on every ordinance that affects unincorporated Pierce County. I don't think that's fair, especially if it comes with a block of voters. So I think ordinances, which are basically codifying, should have 2/3. And I've seen it both ways. I've been on the council in the majority, and I've been in the council in the minority. But I think a lot of the county issues are viewed as collaborative, and we need to work together on it. And to be honest with you, I get tired of cities voting on unincorporated rural policies. So that's just my opinion. And I think there again, appointments should also have 2/3. I would say 99.9% of all appointments pass, no problem, unanimous. Every now and then we have one that ends up usually being a 4-3. That's very far and few between. In my 8 years, it's only happened once. So I don't see a problem with 2/3 on appointments. Clerk of the Superior Court, I think should be elected. Most people don't even know what the clerk of the court does, but it's been very important, as we have found out in the last 5 years. So, and then the other one that I did want to touch base on is of course, we have the brilliant idea of instant runoff, so ignore that part of history. That was a dismal failure. Districting plans. And this is one where when you get into redistricting, you get into a lot of detail. And one of the challenges that I have seen through the last redistricting process is the districting master that the county elects. There hasn't been enough background check in them. It is very unfortunate. It's kind of left up to the parties to do their own background checks. But it's really important that the public sees that redistricting is done on a non-biased, nonpartisan process. One of the things that we found out, and I'll be honest with you, it made my jaw drop. The last districting master that the county ended up hiring, and I think both Derek Young, who was chair of the council at the time, and myself agreed that if we would have known the background of the district master that the county ended up hiring, we would have cut him out immediately. We found social media posts that were very vulgar, that were very partisan, and that even council member Young was very disappointed in it, but we were that ship had already sailed, and there was nothing but controversy through that whole redistricting process. So if you could put some more vetting, transparency when it comes to that, there again, that doesn't happen very often, but when it does, we need to make sure it's done right. The others, in section 4.9, limitation on terms of office, the executive and the council are the only ones that are limited to 2 terms. I would say, based on even someone's experiences as I was coming into this, it takes 1 term to really figure out what you're doing. 4th term, or the 2nd term, you kind of hit your stride, you know what you're doing, and so I don't think a 3rd term is that bad of an idea for both the exec and the council. The other one that I did want to touch on is adoption of a budget. I think one of the challenges that if you were to bring Julie DeBose, our financial director, before you, is the challenge of keeping a minimal fund balance. Times are tough right now. We have, on the council in the past, have agreed to a 15% fund balance reserve. It's been maintained up until the last two budget cycles. This budget cycle, it diminished considerably. And the reason why we kept it at 15%, and that was based on financial projections of if we had an event like 2008, where everything crashed, that we would at least be able to run the county for 90 days without laying anybody off. So the 15% minimum was then brought before the council, and it's kind of been a rule of thumb. But I think there again, as the county is going to end up running into a structural deficit in the next few years. We are currently borrowing, I can't say borrowing, we're taking money out of savings. And we're going to end up back to where we were in 2008. So if there was a way to protect, to put in there some kind of a percentage on fund balance, and I would like to have there again, I seem to be talking about the 2/3 all the time, but there again, to lower that would take a 2/3 vote. I understand kind of the job, Councilmember Kruger's sitting behind me, so really 90% of what we do as council members is pretty straightforward. You will look at the votes that happen, and it's pretty much 7-9. It's when we get to budget issues that it all of a sudden becomes partisan and ideologies pop out, and we attempt to debate those, and you win some, you lose some. That's part of politics. But there again, if we could have a 2/3 vote to raise that 15% minimum balance savings, I think that would be good policy. And I have some things on franchises, but I'm not gonna get into that. I think it's way over my skis to try and tell you about some of the challenges we're having with our franchise right-of-way agreements, especially with large developments like Sunrise and Tahale. We've been backed into a corner a couple times by utility companies because we mandate that certain roads be built by the contractor. And the utility companies come back to us and say, it's not a county road, I don't have to do anything. It will be a county road, but it's not a county road right now. So we're slowly working our way through that, but I just noticed that you had franchises in your in the charter at the end. So with that, see what else did I write down? I think that's pretty much all I have. So I will keep it to a minimum.
Are you able to answer some questions for us, Councilmember Rohrer?
Yes.
Wonderful.
I think I might.
Wonderful. It looks like Commissioner Ginn would like to ask you a question.
Thank you so much. Move on, right? Thank you so much, Councilmember Morel. Commissioner Jan, District 4. Last week, I listened into the Performance Audit Committee, and I realize you're not on that committee, but I was just curious in general, your thoughts on the continuous quality improvement efforts of the county and looking at how to improve processes. I know this is a very general question, but just curious if you think the performance audit process as it's laid out in the charter has been effective and a meaningful process, or if there's something else you might suggest.
Well, I think the performance audit portion of the council is much improved. We've added staffing, we've added a data analyst over the last 2 years. So I think now we're kind of hitting our stride on it, but you know, as council members, we've still got to bring forward a problem and then work towards the problem. Most of our challenges come from human services, dealing with contracting, and that can be a very challenging environment. But I think Bill Vetter and Joe are doing a good job. I would give them.
Commissioner Fletcher?
Commissioner Fletcher, District 5, thank you. County Council Member Morel, you mentioned in your statements that you think the Superior Court clerk should be elected position. Could you explain your reasoning, please?
The reasoning that I have with it is, one, we've had some challenge over the last 6-7 years with our clerk. And I think that there again, it needs to be daylighted that it's an important role of the county. It does handle money, handles transactions, it handles records, data. And I just think that if we're gonna have elected positions, then that would be one that I think needs to be daylighted and be transparent to the public.
All right, we have a question for Commissioner Malasky.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Molesky, District 2, Councilmember Morel. Doing my research in regards to that particular case there with the clerk for the Superior Court, I found out that they serve as a dual position based on the Washington Constitution, RCW. Their primary functions mostly are the judicial, but the administration can also tap into them when their time is not interfering with the judicial system. Can you help me to understand more about that? And is this the reason why it should be considered as an elected position versus appointed?
So there again, you're right. It does serve as the judicial document and recorder of the courts. Also, you know, I don't know the dual role. Or if they could expand what they're currently doing. We've just had challenges in doing what they're supposed to do. And so that's kind of why I'd like to daylight that position a little bit more than it currently is an executive appointed position. I just think that, you know, if you're going to talk about elected positions, that one should be looked at.
Commissioner Consuelo.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for coming to speak with us today, Councilmember Morel. Not more of a question, more of a possible working point. If you want to work on a proposal for 2 in districts or the meeting rescheduling for the 49th, definitely let me know. In districts have been a big portion of the work that we're trying to do here within the charter, and I think having that accessibility increase would be super great. So, thank you.
Commissioner again? Oh, Commissioner Lickens, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Councilmember Morel, for being here. So you mentioned a 2/3 majority for ordinances, becoming codified. So currently, at least my understanding of how it works is if something's passed by the council and the executive vetoes it, comes back to the council and then would need a 2/3 majority. So how would, if everything needs a 2/3 majority, where would the executive veto fit into all of that?
Oh, he doesn't need to veto.
I figured.
It's a done deal. But, there again, I think that if there could be more engagement, more negotiations, more inclusiveness of other council members, especially us that live in serve very suburban and rural areas. We have different ideas, different outlooks, different constituents. And I think there again, we bring, and I'm there again, I've been on both sides, that I think it would engage a little bit better. You would break up the block and, which I don't think is healthy for a county our size, to always be 4-3. And so I just think from the exec standpoint, a veto override doesn't happen very often. I think I've seen it happen twice in about 16 years. So, but there are other ways you can do it. If the executive line item veto, I don't care about that. But I think that again, 2/3 is the way to do it. And, override. Don't have a problem with that. You look through here, a lot of the stuff is 2/3. So.
Thank you.
Commissioner again?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioner again. Last question for me, given the clerk discussion. So I'm curious if a appointed role such as the clerk or Department of Parks, Department of Human Services, if there is something that's gone awry, how difficult is it to remove an appointed position?
Ask risk management. I think the last time.
So, Councilmember Rohrer, if you can just, one moment, you get more time to think about what you want to say.
I'm gonna share here.
That's why we keep that's why we keep the big guy around.
I don't need all the instructions. We got it.
Over there.
Just playing my time.
Bring it back there. Maybe let's give her a second to figure what's going on with that mic. So back to the question of how difficult is it to remove an appointed position or person from an appointed position?
It's challenging, asking the HR person. The last one cost the county $500,000.
Oh.
Buyout. So, fortunately, it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it can get up very often.
Commissioner Willis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Willis, District 3, appreciate you being here, Councilmember Morel. Got a question for you. In regards to the budget, sounds interesting. You've been part of quite a few budgets, Fire Commission and state and county. I'm curious as to section 6.40, the comprehensive planning message. It talks about 100 days prior to the end of even numbers in fiscal years. Is that, in your opinion, enough time to be able to put together a budget at the county? Or is this something that has been passed since 2006? Possibly something else you might see is 120 days or 130, 140 days?
Well, the problem that we had, we discussed this in 2006. We reduced the time down to whatever is 75 days. The problem, you start moving the date back, the information that we received is not accurate. And so you need to get through a couple of quarters to really know what your predictions are going to be. I think we're okay. I mean, I've never felt pressured to complete a budget on time. It just depends on, there again, how the chair runs the budget process at the council, and how we limit amendments. But I don't think anymore, if you were to push it back, sure, that might help us, but there again, I think there again, the accuracy of the numbers that we're getting diminishes as you compress that schedule.
Commissioner Rohrer?
Thank you, Councilmember Morale. Commissioner Rohrer. What would be your wise recommendation on a minimum fund balance? And is that something that is, you mentioned rules of procedure, or is that council authority?
I do believe that it does have council authority to maintain a certain amount. I think there's kind of been this, I think there is either resolution or ordinance out there that maintains a 15% fund balance. It would be interesting to bring Julie DeMuth before you and have a chat about that, because, like I say, right now we're buying into our savings account for the county. I don't see it getting any better. And at what point do we deal with that issue? We were talking to our legislative gal who is lobbying for us down in Olympia. The mandates from the state that we have gotten in the last 2 years have been devastating. Just the public defenders that we have to hire for indigent defense will probably end up costing us, by the time we get done, for $32 million a biennium. And how are we going to get that? And the state doesn't seem to want to help us. Talk about tort reform, talk about lawsuits, but I think there again, if the county can maintain a healthy fund balance and then have fiscal restraints based on that fund balance, I think we would be better off instead of just thinking that we can borrow or take from savings and make it up down the road. So.
All right, so our final question for tonight, to let Councilmember Morel wrap up, is from Commissioner Layton.
Good. Can you hear me okay with my headphones?
Sure, you're doing great.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Layton here. Councilmember Rail, good to see you, and thank you for your comments. Good insight, and hopefully we can get other council members to also provide some. When we go back to the idea of electing the chief clerk, You talked a lot about this person's being appointed so far and costing the county. What accountability measures would we have other than a recall? And then every 4 years an election if we went to an elected position? What's to stop an incompetent clerk that gets in there and really kind of stalls up the clerk or the court system and really delays things other than a recall, which is very difficult, as we found out in this county, and every 4 year term elections? What other accountability measures could be put in there if we elected a chief clerk?
Well, I think you guys are smart enough, you could figure that out, but, you know, we've had definite challenges through the last two appointed clerks, and, you know, I just think that there again, if we're talking about transparency, accountability, I think the public needs to participate in that. Qualifications, you know, you can take a look at other qualifications from other counties, and you know, you could put some parameters in there. But we've gone far and wide to find people that fit those roles through various appointments, and you know, we still haven't been able to work it out, but we'll see how things go with the latest appointed individual, and wish them all the luck. But like I say, if you want something to talk about, that might be one thing to talk about. Other than that,
All right, Councilman Morrell, thank you so much for coming and speaking with us tonight. We deeply appreciate your time.
well, thank you, and good luck with everything. I will say one closing comment. This was given to us by a very wise lady by the name of Kathy Pearsall Stipek. She was on the commission with us in 2006. And she, even with 9 ballot measures, she cautioned us on voter fatigue. And it's a thing. So don't get too detailed. Don't try to consolidate power too much. And understand that you're building the outside of a box. You're not building the inside of a box. Because I have been part of bad legislators and good legislators that have been elected. And eventually people come, people go, personalities change. And I have been here through 3 sheriffs. And and each one comes with their own personalities. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Morrell. All right, so the next item on our agenda is public comment.
Actually,
Yes.
That presentation.
7C, thank you so much. I did not flip my page. So my suggestion is going to be that we watch this video on our own. Because I don't believe that we are going to continue to have much time in these meetings, especially given the wonderful folks that we have here and I'm sure online for public comment tonight. Are there any objections to us watching that video on our own between now and next meeting and doing a discussion next meeting about what we all have learned?
Absolutely not.
All right, so hearing no objections, thank you so much, Commissioner Wozniak, for reminding me to address that. All right, so on to public comment. I would also be happy to entertain a recess if we all, with no objections to taking a recess. Let's take a 10-minute recess. So let's be back at 7:40. So 11-minute recess.
We're ready, Madam Chair.
All right, welcome back, everyone. For anyone who is here online, if you could please put your hand up, raise your hand so that we know how many folks are interested in participating in public comment tonight. And then I would like to have the clerk give us a report on written public comment that we've received.
So the commission received 20 written public comments, and they are found in the meeting packet.
Thank you. And again, a reminder for anyone online who's interested in sharing public comment tonight, if you could please use the raise your hand function so that we know how many folks are going to be speaking. I have on the sign-up sheets right now, 1, 2, 8 folks in the room as well. So I'm going to read a statement just so that we all are on the same page about public comment for tonight. So public engagement is a crucial component of this charter review process, and to ensure all members of the public can participate in sharing their testimony, I would request that side conversations be taken out of the room and into the hall, that all testimony be directed to the commissioners, and that the audience refrain from clapping or other expressions of agreement or disagreement during public comment. As a reminder, the purpose of the Charter Review Commission is to review the charter and propose amendments that will be on the ballot in November for all registered voters of Pierce County to vote for or against. All right. Do we have any folks online who raised their hands just to get a count? All right. So I would also be happy to, if there's not objection, since we are at 7:40 tonight, to reduce public comment time to 2 minutes if there's support among the commission. Do I hear any objection? Commissioner Rudy.
I would like to keep it at 3 minutes.
Yes, Commissioner Rohrer.
I would agree with that, keeping it at 3 minutes, especially since they've had to wait so long to be here and share with us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So hearing those objections, we will continue with 3 minutes. So as a reminder to anyone in the room, if you are going to be making public comment tonight, you have 3 minutes. The clock will start as soon as you start speaking, and please share with us your name and the area of the county that you are coming to us from. And our first person tonight is Vicki Standich. Did I say that right?
Yes,
Standich. Perfect. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Vicki Stanich, and I live in District 6. I have 2 comments. Is it possible to reduce public comment time from 3 minutes to 1.5 minutes? Due to the many public comments during charter review, wouldn't it make better sense for people to condense their comments to 1.5 minutes to give the charter commissioners more time to discuss proposed amendments? I worry that there will not be enough time for all articles and proposed amendments to be discussed in the required timeframe. And the second comment is to thank all of you for volunteering your time to this hard work, especially with having complex discussions about the sheriff-related amendment proposals. The recent proposals are very important, and if our state law had stronger guidelines for either an elected or an appointed sheriff about stronger qualifications and background checks, you might not have to have these prolonged discussions about elected versus appointed sheriffs. I refer you to SB 597 for moving through the state legislature currently. Additionally, if we didn't have a law enforcement officer who has made unprofessional and controversial comments regarding transgender community members, for instance, you may not have to consider strengthening the charter amendments at the local level In the interest of time, I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Grant Plasky.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Like Councilmember Morrell, I too was a former commissioner and state representative and former Boy Scout. I would like to address the preamble of the Pierce County Charter, which says in part, we claim the right to initiative and referendum and encourage citizen participation in accordance with the state constitution. However, signature requirements in Article 5.40 and 5.70 in truth and in fact discourage citizen participation and are not in accordance with the Constitution of the state of Washington. Now, the preamble of the Washington State Constitution says, "We, the people of the state of Washington, grateful to the supreme ruler of the universe for our liberties, do ordain this Constitution." I believe the supreme ruler of this universe would have this commission amend the charter to make initiative and referendum requirements in accordance with the state constitution, and therefore encourage citizen participation as is outlined in the Pierce County Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you. So next is Jeff Winter.
Right, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the commission. Jeff Winter, 5th District. My father was a hardworking, self-employed man. He took people for their word and a handshake sealed the deal. In growing up, I experienced times when people wouldn't hold up to their end of the bargain, keeping him from what he was due. When I was in high school, I witnessed the system steal from him his American dream. Perhaps that is why I'm sensitive when it comes to the truth and why I've become very wary with our government. I work hard in my occupation only to watch as those in our government go back on their word and attack our God-given rights with impunity. We're left to put our hope for change in the next election. Just get out and vote. As you know, I testified last week that I'd been at our state capitol in Olympia to attend a meeting regarding Senate Bill 5974 and how I was troubled because it seemed that our legislatures are making decisions based on their feelings and emotions without any regard to the Constitution. I also mentioned that we as a people are not taught that there is a wall of separation between Article 1 and Article 2 of our state constitution, to which even the U.S. Supreme Court has recognized. It is my opinion, but with strong evidence, I believe that our country is being destroyed due to a lack of knowledge. We, the people, have not been taught the fundamental principles that our forefathers put into our constitution to ensure that our rights could not be attacked, and we have been kept from due process of law. Charles Whiteson stated, and I quote, "If one fails to understand the fundamental principles in law, then there is no end to which he can be misled or deceived about what is right and what is wrong." Our Constitution is a trust, and those who serve in government are servants and trustees, not so-called leaders that we are led to believe. Virginia Constitution, Article 1, Declaration of Rights, Section 2, that all power is vested in and consequently derived from the people, that magistrates are their trustees and servants, and at all times amenable to them. Before our servants take office, they are sworn in. What we are not taught is that our constitutions are express trust, and when our servants swear to uphold the Constitution, they're in fact signing a contract. The Washington State Constitution, Article 1, Section 32, fundamental principles, frequent occurrence of fundamental principles is essential to the security of individual right and the perpetuity of a free government. Years ago, during my 12 years of public instruction, I do not recall ever being taught about these fundamental principles, which are essential to the security of my rights. How about you? If we are sincere and we truly want to restore our nation, it is we, the people, that must step up and learn these fundamental principles that have been hidden by those who desire to rule over us. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you. Paulson?
Jim Paulson. Last Thursday, I went to the city council, city manager recruitment thing. And after it was all done, went and talked to bigwigs, I'm going to call it that. I told my story about the drug house, what happened, and I talked to all these people, and back then, the appointed police chief of the city of Tacoma, that'd be 5 years ago, not the current one. Anyway, telling the story, I found it very interesting what they said back. Nobody said to me, "Well, that's terrible, that couldn't happen." They just listened, kept their mouth shut. And I kind of thought about it, and I said, well, what is the deal with this appointment stuff? Well, I wonder. People want somebody appointed for sheriff because they want to control the sheriff. Now, the city of Tacoma controls the 5-year-old back then police chief by paying them an enormous amount of money. More than, well, the current one makes 50% more than the governor for Tacoma, the police chief. So obviously, our appointed sheriff is going to have a huge amount of money to what I call be an appointed flunky to follow somebody else's rules who's going to rule over the appointed sheriff. The rulers of Pierce County and the state of Washington want more power. And this is the way they're going to get it. If the voters get sucked in and become stupid like Seattle or New York City. It's kind of disappointing. We have somebody who wants law and order, and we have another group that wants power to dismiss law and order. That's the way I see it. I looked through Google for murders, and there's been a bunch of murders, deaths, either from traffic or from illegal aliens. And I think that's what they really want.
Thank you. Kristen Brown?
Good evening, Commissioners. I appreciate the thoughtful discussion around the structure of the Sheriff's Office. And I'd like to briefly respond to one of the arguments raised against keeping the sheriff elected. All of you, me too, we were elected. And we get up in the morning and we plan the meetings that we're gonna go to, and we look through the policies that we need to make decisions on. And every single piece of that, we're thinking about, well, I do, I'm assuming that you do. I'm thinking about the people that voted me in. And I don't get somebody up here that has appointed me that's to make them happy. I answer to every single person that voted for me. And I know that if I don't do right by them, that they will be making some noise and I won't get elected again. So I think when we're talking about accountability of the sheriff, that each one of us can relate to the fact that an elected position answers to the people that voted for them. And I'm hoping that we will keep it that way. We've experienced otherwise in the past, it didn't go well. We see what appointed chief of police does. The problems that we're trying to address in appointing a sheriff aren't any different for the appointment of the chief of police. And so I don't understand why we would take that away from the people, the vote away from the people. I appreciate your time, and I won't address the other issues that I disagree with, because I think that one is the most important, but thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Kristen Bridgen-Brown, and I am in County Council 7.
Tony Lambert?
Hi, my name is Tony Lambert. I'm District 2, County District 2. And this is the first time I've even considered speaking to anybody. So I'd like to first say thank you very much for volunteering, getting elected. I know it was difficult for everybody. But I have some major issues with this sheriff issue. We all claim that we live in a democratic country, a democratic state, and a democratic county. And here we are saying, we're going to take away that democracy and we're going to let a small group of people or maybe one person decide one of the most important positions in our district and take that out of the hands of the people. And then we're going to ask the question, why are voters disgruntled? Why are we having trouble getting voters to vote? It's because we're taking away their vote. We're telling them their vote doesn't matter because we're going to appoint this guy, or we're going to appoint this person, or that person, or this woman, or this man. It doesn't make sense to me how we can say we are a democratic society and then say, but the most important person in the county, we're going to appoint that person. All I have to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is John Leslie, I believe.
Hello, John Leslie. I'm from District 5, lifetime resident of Pierce County. Thankful to be here. I've been very busy tracking state legislation, so I haven't been able to pay much attention to this, but I will be. I'm just going to speak in general tonight. I didn't have anything prepared, but I really appreciated hearing from Councilman Dave Morrell tonight. I think he brought up some very good points of some things that you all should consider. They sound productive, and I'm sure there's a whole bunch more than that. But what I keep hearing is that we're all fixated here on this sheriff issue. And I think that this is the height of vanity for anyone to think that someone else can decide the sheriff better than me, or you, or you, or you. How can you make that assessment as he just brought up? And it's not democratic. There's no sense in it. I'll address the issues more specific to some of the amendment proposals in the future. But for now, I just want to seed the ground with that. But I think the sponsors of these bills try and strip us of our right to elect our sheriff are acting in vanity because they have political motivations. They don't like the current sheriff. What happens when the shoe's on the other foot? You know, not gonna like it too good when they take your right away. So leave it with the people and we'll pick this apart. But I would propose that you stick with productive items like Dave Morrell outlined tonight and dump this thing because it's not going to be popular. So thank you.
Thank you. David Rose.
Good evening, David Rose, District 4. There are a lot of really interesting dichotomies in the debate over sheriff, and I want to kind of split my time between sheriff and something else that's very important to me. I think it's very ironic that a lot of people who oppose making the sheriff an appointed position are very free and willing to rail against politicians as acting as political animals in their own political self-interest, while at the same time wanting to make or keep the sheriff a political position, basically leaving our law enforcement to a politician instead of a qualified professional who is vetted and meets certain basic criteria. I think that it's ironic that a lot of people will talk about the importance of democracy while at the same time pointing out that we live in a republic and scoffing at people who want to hold their elected representatives accountable, especially if they're in the minority and acting against a politician that they support. I also hear a lot of people talking about picking and choosing which laws to enforce. And I think it's important to note that if you have a politician who is being elected to enforce your laws, you are almost inherently picking and choosing which laws to enforce based on what party they are in. And again, there's just no excuse to have that much politicking in the enforcement of laws. I also think that it's really atrocious that we have a sheriff who seems to want to pick and choose which of his constituents are human or not, as it seems to be the case. As far as accountability goes, I do understand that if you are electing somebody, you are expressing your will as the voters, but at the same time, the only method of accountability is the recall process that requires 25% of the votes as signatures on a ballot, as well as a very cumbersome recall process, or just wait 4 years for the opportunity to run somebody else against them. That's not a viable democratic solution. And then finally, there is also a matter of democracy in between choosing the sheriff in an election and choosing whether to choose the sheriff. And this is a democratic process. The end result of this is going to be putting it on the ballot for the voters to decide whether we want to choose the sheriff. And I would like the opportunity to choose to have an appointed sheriff. That all being said, I would also like to make note that I emailed my congressional representative about the size of our districts, because I proposed an amendment to you all to set a cap on the size of the district, and I got a canned letter response from her about midterm apportionment, completely off topic. And I just want to use that as an example to say, one person cannot effectively represent 100,000 people, much less 600, or I should say 600, much less 100. And I think that the amendment before you to set a cap on the number of members of a district is extremely important.
Thank you. That is all of the folks that I had on my sign-in sheet that said yes, they would like to make public comment tonight in the room. So we will move online to anyone who's on Zoom who would like to make public comment.
Yes, for any members of the public who wish to provide comment, press the raise hand icon on Zoom or star 9 on your telephone keypad. And it looks like we have one at this time. Maurice, please state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. I have been, I'm new to this process, and I've been watching and seeing how you guys have been discussing the election between the sheriff and how you believe they should represent us. And how I see it from an outsider's perspective, not being political, it seems very disappointing that you guys have almost decided already, especially with the presentation I saw earlier tonight, in how it was very biased in trying to convince people that the selected sheriff is the way to go, as opposed to what we have now. And the words of our own sheriff, who has been adamant about maintaining the way that we have it. And of all the public support I've heard tonight, and from what I've been looking into, it seems like there is an overwhelming public consolidation of opinions that we need to keep this as a safeguard against the supermajority of Democrats that we've seen. Now, with this being an apolitical position, Keith Swank has been very adamant that that his authority is derived from the people that he represents, and the safeguards that he has is the Constitution and not to the authority of anybody else. And I see that as a big win for personal liberties. Now, I'm Native American, native to Washington State, and my people have been here for thousands of years, and I love this place. And I really think that you guys being representatives of the people, being elected in elected positions, advocating to select instead of elect, is gross. I don't see it as genuine at all. And the entire presentation I saw is extremely biased. And I really don't think that you gave a fair shake to all the people that were advocating against what you guys seem to be advocating for, which is you guys want a selected sheriff. I don't see that as genuine. I don't see that as representative of the people that you guys are supposed to be representing. We don't live in a democracy. We live in a republic. We elected you guys to represent the people's sentiment. And from what I see, the representation has been strictly against this selected sheriff. And the presentations were extremely biased. And I would just like to say that from everything that I've seen, I would really like to see you guys take into more consideration what the people have been saying, what the opposition has been saying, because there's a lot more that don't know about this. You guys are there as representatives, so we don't have to tune into every single time you guys meet up. That's not our job. That's literally your job. But for some reason, it seems as if you guys are just deciding to rule instead of represent.
Thank you.
Next, we have Christy Gledhill. Please state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, commissioners. And it's Christy Gledhill in District 7, Gig Harbor. I'm just listening to all of this commentary tonight. I know that this issue about the sheriff is not even on the agenda, but I feel like I have to say something about the fact that people are talking about the sheriff position as if everyone knew what they were voting for. And this is anecdotal evidence. Everyone I speak to in this county who who I ask about the sheriff, they don't know what the sheriff's name is. They don't remember who they voted for. It's a low information election where nobody did their research. And we ended up with someone who would have been fired from Seattle Police Department if he hadn't quit. So this is who we've ended up with. And I've done a public records request to a lot of them to Pierce County. I did one to the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission to find out exactly how many complaints there are against him, because I kept hearing conflicting information. There are 15 complaints against this sheriff with the Criminal Justice Training Commission. That's a state body that is in charge of decertification. And there are 8 active cases against this sheriff. And they are for things like unprofessionalism, discrimination, bias, and dishonesty. Those are the complaints against him. There are 8 of them. And he could be decertified. And yet, even if he's decertified, we're still stuck with him. Like, I don't think people understand that somebody mentioned earlier, what if the shoe's on the other foot? Yes, what if the shoe were on the other foot? And you, instead of idolizing this sheriff for some unknown reason, were not happy with the sheriff. We couldn't get rid of that person either. So I mean, I am trying to listen to all of the different perspectives, but there's a lot here that just doesn't make sense. And it seems like something that people are clinging to because it is party line talking points. And I just encourage everyone to let go of that and look at the actual situation of what we have here in Pierce County. Oh, I'm just done. It's thank you. Thank you for giving me this time. Goodbye.
Thank you.
And at this time, Madam Chair, there are no other hands.
All right, so that concludes public comment for this evening. Thank you everyone in the room and online who stuck with us through all that tonight. We really appreciate you all being here. So on to updates from the chair. One thing just from the facilities, it sounds like maybe there is some concern about things like crumbs being left around. If folks would please just pick up around you before you go, that would be great. And also just a comment about how it seems like there are, and I know live mics everywhere, but that folks online can actually even hear when our phones are dinging and ringing. So folks can maybe pay a little bit of attention to how much we're on our phones and how loud they might be when we're in the space tonight. Well, and every night, sorry. Commissioner Heatherington.
Commissioner Heatherington, just to add to that, if I can hear you at the table and you're in the audience, they can hear you at home. So, I mean, it's all live mics. So I constantly can hear people behind me chit-chatting, and if I can hear you, they can hear you.
Thank you. All right, so the first update. So as a part of the, Oh, yes, thank you. So one of the things that we are also doing is adding additional speakers to the list that I sent out earlier. We have both Chair Hitchin and Executive Mello, as well as some of the other department heads. We're just trying to figure out what dates. So we are getting more and more of our invites being returned. So you'll continue to get updates from me at least probably at the end of every week to say this is who we have lined up, and you'll also see it on the agenda as well. Commissioner O'Leary.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Leary, District 1. Just a question on the process, and forgive me if it's already stated in our protocols, but how are we deciding who speaks and who doesn't? And should there be involvement of all of us and a vote taken before we have some of these folks come in, so that we know we at least have some opportunity to engage rather than just receive? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Leary. So we did not outline in our process at all how we would determine who would be invited to come speak. I put a call out at several of our first meetings to say if any commissioners would like to invite someone to come speak, that they're welcome to. And then I have just moved forward with the speakers who have been presented, not trying to limit any commissioner's responsibility to vet folks and bring them into this space. All of the future presenters that we have are current elected officials or folks who are within our county government, with the exception of Paul Pastor, who I think we're into final ideas about what date he's going to come join us. So those are the only folks that have been brought to me. I would love to know if there are other commissioners that have other ideas, but that is the processes that exist currently. All right, and for next week, we have Sheriff Swank, who's going to be coming to talk with us. So we will hear from him next week. All right, is this still, okay, it sounded like it cut off for a second. We also would like to propose the draft rules of engagement that were in your packet, and I'm going to hand this over to Vice Chair Lentz for the topic.
As the Chair said, we've discussed rules of engagement to cover both our own conduct as commissioners, to lay out the expectations of our meetings, and around the expectations of public participation and public comment. These have been in the meeting packet now for 2 separate meetings with the call for input, and I have not received anything additional. So it starts on page 46 of the online packet and continues through page 48. So at this point, we could either take the time to go over them, which I am not recommending, or we can, by consensus or by vote, agree that we will be bound by these rules of engagement that have been provided.
Second.
Second, what?
Oh, has to be a motion.
So unless there are objections, we can just adopt the rules of engagement as presented in your packet. Do I hear any objections? Wonderful. All right, we have some rules of engagement, everyone. That's great, and thank you, Vice Chair Lentz, for your work on that. All right, other things that are in your packet are the updated process flowchart and workflow document to include the code revision piece of our process. And then also the amazing FAQ document that a group of commissioners put together is, I don't know if anyone on that group would like to say anything more than just it exists and it's wonderful and we would like to get it up on the website. Okay, any objection? Yes, Commissioner Rohrer.
Well, I just have a point of clarification and maybe a question. We've talked in past meetings about putting up on our website for transparency all the amendments. Can you give us an update on that? Because it is, when we are talking to community members, they have a very small understanding of what is going on here at the commission. And it is incumbent upon us to make it easy for them to understand all the different amendments being discussed, or whether they've been amended and updated. Can you give us an update on that? Or can we make a vote? Do we need a motion to make a vote for that to happen?
So I can tell you, we do not need a motion because absolutely everyone involved would like for that to happen. I know county staff would like, it'd be amazing if we had just something on the website that we could all click into and see the most updated version of the different proposals and be able to track all of that. So it's just a technical piece that is trying to be worked out right now. It is not something that has been lost and something that I think everyone would like to see happen. So thank you for bringing it up, but it is in the works.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, let's see here. So I'm not hearing any objections to using the FAQ on the website. Commissioner Sren.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Surratt, District 5. I'm curious if there might be a benefit of, in the future, having a commissioner tasked with maintaining a list of amendments that are routinely updated by them and designating a person for that role, if that's not already been done.
That has already been done, and that is Vice Chair Lenz's honorable duty that she has taken on.
Thank you so much.
It's really just the fact that we have so many proposals that are getting different points in the process, and that's why we have that tracking document, but we know that it's not enough and are wanting to get that more visible on the website. So thank you, and Vice Chair Lenz's job. Thank you so much for that. She's very good at it. All right. That is, and then the last piece about in districts, or the last piece that I have about this for in districts is if you are having a hard time finding a location because of a component of your district might be difficulty finding locations, feel free to talk with the county council assistants for your district, because they would know all of the places that we have had in districts, or that the county council has had in districts, so they would be a really good group of people to have a good sense of what to do there. Commissioner Leary. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Mlowski. I'll let you all battle over the microphone.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just clarification, are you talking about the listening session and the in-district? I mean, are you combining the two? Because I'm following through the agenda and I didn't see that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So listening sessions I have under communications, at least on my little agenda here. The in-districts are the bigger production where county staff needs to ensure that we have the appropriate Zoom opportunities, that we have all of the tech needs met, as well as space large enough, whereas listening sessions can be anywhere you would like to have them, and do not require any county staff involvement in developing those, aside from getting them posted to the website so that everyone knows about them.
I appreciate you, Madam Chair. So under reports,
can you? There you go.
I appreciate you, Madam Chair. So under the reports and update, C, listening sessions, that is in regards to.
Those are the much more informal. You get to choose wherever you want them, have them in whatever way you want them. The in-districts are when this whole show goes on the road.
I'm with you on that, my love. The thing is that, are you expecting us to provide date update in regards to who has already scheduled it and everything? So it on the, that's what I'm looking at, because you said it was under communication. I didn't see it under communication. I see it under the reports and update.
Gotcha. So the listening sessions I have been putting under communications.
Okay.
Just because those are pretty low.
Understood the point. How do you want us to respond back in regards to dates that we already solidified? Do you want us to make an announcement here as well, in addition to what's already going to be posted soon on the site?
Yes. So when we get to the communication section, that is where hopefully one commissioner from the district will be able to share, here's what listening sessions we are going to have, and here's what happened at the ones that we have already had. Just a quick update for everyone. So I'm sorry if that was not clear on the agenda. That is
I appreciate you, my love. I appreciate you, my love. The thing is, I'm reading the agenda. I don't see the category for communications.
Oh, did I get?
I'm trying to follow through.
Yeah. Sorry, I actually don't have the single printed agenda. If anybody else? Okay, Commissioner Lenz.
So the agenda that is under number 6, reports and updates, number 6C, communications and scheduling updates, is the broad category. What the chair is trying to state is that her notes to it's not there. Her notes to herself are that under communications and scheduling updates, she's gonna turn to everyone and ask to report out on listening sessions.
I'm with you, my friend, I confirm what you're saying, it's just that it's not literally written.
That is correct. So what I'm getting is that you would like that to be a header that appears on every agenda, and we can make that happen.
No, just clarification is just fine.
Thank you, and that was my clerical error on my typed out sheet, because I need notes for myself, so, thank you. All right, Commissioner O'Leary.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Leary, District 1. We have secured some great locations in District 1 for some in-district meetings and listening sessions. But the people that are there, because these are public facilities, are asking who they need to coordinate with on county staff. So could we get the email or the contact information for whoever that would be?
Absolutely, I can send that out in an email to everyone, but it's going to be Jair and Brian, who will be the primary folks to talk about tech needs specifically.
Yeah, I don't want to be in the middle of that. So I just want to make sure we can connect them, and that's okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Unless I see objection from the county staff table. Seeing none, that's our process. Thank you. All right, so on to legal report and pending requests for analysis or advice. Seeing nothing. Listening session report backs. Do I have Commissioner Likens?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Likens, District 7. I just wanted to announce again that we are having a listening session this upcoming Saturday, March 7th, from 10:30 to 12 p.m. at the Key Center branch of the Pierce County Library for District 7. And we represent North Tacoma, West Tacoma, Gig Harbor, Fox Island, and the Key Peninsula, and we're starting out in the Key Peninsula. A notification, we put in a press release to Gig Harbor Now and the Gig Harbor Gigabyte and a few key locations out on the Key Pen. Thank you.
I think Commissioner Surratt, and then we'll come over to Commissioner Pulaski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Surratt, I don't have a report back necessarily, but I do want to alert commissioners and the public that we have a listening session scheduled for Sunday at the Summit Pierce County Library between 1 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. Again, District 5, a listening session at the Summit Pierce County Library, 1 to 2:30 p.m. Light refreshments will be provided, and of course, the following week we'll have a report back.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner Pulaski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Pulaski, District 2. We have two listening sessions scheduled. The first was April 1st. We are going to be at the Phillip Library. No, opposite. Okay, so April 1st, we're going to be at Edgewood City Council. All right, that's going to be at 6 p.m. For there. And then the second one's going to be April 8th. It's going to be at the Puyallup Library from 5:30 to 7.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, Commissioner Boyd.
Oh, sorry.
I just had a couple of questions about the in-district meetings because I've been trying to secure a place. I'm wondering about the budget. When we talk about the use of the facility and the custodian that will come in and what Commissioner O'Leary was talking about, how much hands-on are we, that kind of thing, in setting up that and tearing down.
Yes, so that the piece about the budget is that each district has $2,500 to be able to spend on in-district meetings and listening sessions. So you all get to determine what works best for your district. And then if to go with any contracts or anything like that, I'm going to direct you back to county staff, and I believe Susan Long is probably the person who we should direct contract questions, like if people are needing to reserve a space and needing some sort of official component to that would, yes, to Susan Long. And then in terms of the tech pieces, send those right over to communications. So I would say probably just put all of our amazing county staff on an email and say, here's what we're thinking, please, yeah.
Okay.
And CC the clerk, and then might as well include Vice Chair Lenz and I, just so that we can make sure we're tracking who is lining up locations, so that we are trying our best to keep it all together.
That makes sense. Thank you very much.
Of course, thank you. All right, so my last chair update is just, y'all have been doing such a great job of not replying all, so thank you, and please continue to not reply all. Okay, so that takes us on to amendment proposals. Oh no, Jared, did we give you the tracking sheet as one of the things, or did I already mess up?
Is it the Excel spreadsheet?
It is the Excel spreadsheet, yes. I really don't want to be on the bad list. Jared deserves better than that from me.
There's a list.
And as we discussed, this is not necessarily the only way we would like to get you all this information, but it's the way that we have access to at this point in time. Vice Chair Lentz?
So they have the document, the tracking document up on the screen that hopefully is helpful for members of the public on Zoom. To the point about getting this set up, so this document, as it's being continually updated, as well as the set of amendment proposals that have come in to date, which should track against this document, to having that in a place that can be accessed online by the public, by the commissioners, we are making that an utmost priority and really understand, as the chair said, how important this is, and we would all like it. In the meantime, I can recommend that it's a little harder, but you can go back through the packets, which are all in chronological order online. And as a proposal makes its way through the process, it does appear in the packets. I realize that that's tedious to thumb through those, but they are there and they roughly track this spreadsheet. But we are really trying hard to find a place that is a set location where folks can go out and take a look at it anytime they want to, as well as the set of amendment proposals. To that end, I wanted to kind of go over this spreadsheet a little bit. I added a number of columns to it to more accurately reflect what's going on any given occasion, to indicate whether something has gone through code revisor review, whether to call out, at least at a high level, what the contents and the subject of the proposal is, where in the charter the proposal is directed for a change or clarification, or I guess a change can also be a deletion. Has it gone through the code revisor review? Has it been given an official number? What is that number? How are we tracking it? Has it been sent to legal? Has legal provided a report? And if you can kind of scroll to the left, Jair, as we're going. Has there been a revision since it was launched? If that's the case, there's another column that tracks it as revised number. And you can see, sorry, I can't see that. I think that's the column. You can see revised number for this week. We have C3, C4, and C5R, and C3, as we'll talk about in a second when we get to it, actually is C3R1. So we're going to try really hard to let people know that things have kind of morphed. And then if that revision required a new legal report, have we received it? Then going over toward the end of that, have we had the 4 votes for sponsorship met? Oops, and I see I forgot to put the date. I'm trying to track the date as to when that occurred, and I did not for Commissioner Rogi's proposal to the preamble, and I apologize, I'll fix that. How many meetings it's been discussed, and then toward the end, I've spread it out to note that we've achieved vote for final consideration. Note that that's not achieved vote for final, it's that it's gone through our discussion process and it's now sitting because it received the votes to sit for future final consideration. Then to track from then, the 2 meetings after we resurrect those that are waiting for final consideration. We're going to have 2 meetings with public comment on that. Then at the very end, sent to the ballot, that's going to say yes or no, and then other disposition, did we maybe bundle it up and send it back to the council with some suggestions as to they could take action on it. So that's the intention, to have this document really track where we're going at each time, which hopefully will go to Commissioner Rohrer's point as we get these documents outward facing in particular, to really help people kind of track from varying ways. If you go down to the tab at the bottom, we have the same setup for any proposed amendment proposals received from other officials, which we don't have any. No other officials have provided us with anything. And as well as a tab for public proposals, and basically the same, tracking the same way, a little bit of difference, because we have a slightly different workflow process for proposals that initiate with a member of the public, but that's the gist of it. So anyway, stay tuned, because we really hope to find a nice spot on our webpage to launch that, and we will absolutely make it a priority and let you know as soon as it's up and running and where it is. So wait, where are we? So that was the tracking sheet. And then I guess I'm just gonna jump through these other ones too real quick. Under 8B, new proposals, information only, no action will be taken. These are in your packets, they're in the online packets. Those proposals have been given numbers, C9, C10, C11. We're not going to be talking about them tonight. They have not gone through the requisite additional steps of receiving legal review, et cetera. They have cleared the code reviser. And if that's, it's on page 168, starting on page 168 of the online packet, sorry. So those will be in your packet as information only. So everybody will have the first possible opportunity to know what is being milled through and what we're gonna have in front of us on the subsequent agendas as we move through this. So that C9, C10, and C11, and then that gets us to C under 8, which is public amendment proposals. These are, again, on the spreadsheet, we have, and they were in your packets, we have received P1, which has been sponsored by Commissioner Walewski and Commissioner Herrera, so that's moving through the process in a different way. We've received P2, which we've discussed before. To date, no one has agreed to sponsor that. So that's still sitting there. P2, citizenship for voter registration, was proposed by a member of the public, and we've received a third one that was actually alluded to tonight by one of our speakers, which has been numbered as P3. And if I could find it in the, tell you what page we're on in the packet. Page 176 of the packet is where P3 starts to be laid out. Again, that was presented to you as information. We've received it. It's been intaken. It's making its way through. But for those P2 or P3 to get off the ground, if you will, we're going to have a sponsor of at least one commission member. So those are available for you. Commissioner Rydell Kelly.
Yes, I would like to sponsor P3 for the expansion of the county council.
Thank you, Commissioner Rydell Kelly.
Thank you very much.
Do we have anyone who's interested in sponsoring P2? Seeing none, that will continue on our agenda, and P3 will move on in our process. That brings us.
Madam Chair.
Oh, yes, Commissioner.
Sorry. I do have a question. How long does a proposal sit? Is it in perpetuity? Like, does it sit there all 6 months, or at what point does it move away and not count? You know what I mean? Like, if there's no second, the motion dies, sort of theory.
I don't believe in our process we specifically stated when a public proposal will find its way off of our agenda. It'll just consistently be there as an opportunity for any of the commissioners to sponsor it if they would like to. Until we get to the kind of final decision making, the bucket, if you will.
The cutoff date.
The cutoff date
Yeah.
of April 13th. Okay. All right, does that answer your question, Commissioner Layton? Okay, great. So that. What was that? P1. Oh, sure. So Vice Chair Hance.
So I just wanted to say that P1, which has been sponsored by Commissioner Molesky and Commissioner Herrera, it relates to another topic we heard about tonight, the appointment or election of the clerk of the Superior Court. I just wanted to get clarification. You don't have to do it on the record, but just let the two sponsors know where that is in the process. It has gone to Susan Long, our code reviser, and I understand that she had some questions back for the two of you, for you as sponsors. She would have emailed those back to you. So the next step would be, do you want to accept and modify the proposal with her suggestions, or launch it or continue it with accepting some or none of those? So that's why it's not on tonight's agenda. Once that is made clear as to what you want to do with that, just let everyone know, me in particular, and I will then move it so it will be available for you as sponsors to introduce it, explain why you took up sponsorship, and then we will be seeking 4 votes to advance it.
Thank you, Commissioner Lance. Yes, I did respond to that. And respond to the block that she had when it was annotated. So all of that's been responded to, and she knows what I wanted to be accepted. So we're good to go on that. So I'm just waiting for the final, feedback. So yeah, that's been done.
Great, thank you all. All right, so that moves us on to Commissioner amendment proposals for information and potential consideration for the 4 vote sponsorship. So we'll start with C3R, vacancies, and I will hand it over to Commissioner Surratt for an introduction. And
so C3, I can't find the page packet, gotta give me a second here. C3R is the one that appeared on the chart where I said it was C3R1. And Commissioner Surratt, we're passing this around, and that's the second document that can be called up by JR. There we go. Oh, sorry. I definitely can't do more than one thing at a time, and I can't either see my laptop and see the screen at the same time, so that's another problem. Anyway, see the version of C3R that was in your packet, Commissioner Surratt made or wanted to make what is essentially a minor Scrivener's type of change to it. And if you scroll down to the end of that document on C3R1, the change that he wants to make and that now appears on the version of C3R1, at the very bottom, I put a reviser's note. You see that?
Do you know what page it is in the packet?
Well, it's not the one in the packet. It's the one that I sent you by email. So I don't know if we had any extra copies if the members of the audience want to see that, but he's going to be getting it up on the screen in a second. So the change, the difference between R1 and the version in the packet is under section 4, which has new language proposed. The proposed for B, give him a second here, it's at the bottom of the page. Is that it though? Yeah, sorry, I really can't see that far. So keep going now.
All the way down.
Yep. Keep going.
That's it.
What?
That's it.
Did I send you a?
No, that's it. That's there.
Is it there? No, it doesn't, the revised.
The resolution. Oh.
Oh my gosh, I don't know how I did that. Well, all right, so let's do this. I will read it. Commissioner Surratt can speak to it. If folks think that there's not enough notice, and I apologize for that, this is why we need to have this facing outward and everybody can see it in real time. Then he has agreed that he's happy to delay this discussion, but I think the change is pretty simple. So I'll just read it. If you have the paper, you can follow along. The proposal 3R stated in proposed 4B, it had the words of the executive branch and not the executive. All powers and responsibilities shall be transferred to the executive, who may designate an appointee to exercise such powers. The change in the R1 version takes that out and replaces it with of the executive branch and not the executive shall designate an acting officer to exercise the powers and duties of the office. Basically, it simplifies it and it directs the executive in the context of this larger proposal, which Commissioner Surratt is going to explain. It directs the executive to designate an acting officer. It doesn't transfer powers and responsibilities to the executive and give the executive the option to designate an appointee. So it sharpens it up. We'll let Commissioner Surratt speak to it. But that's the only change between what's in your packet under R and what's going to be discussed as R1, which at least everybody in the room has a handout of. Unfortunately, because I did not send the right version to our communications staff, it's not up on the screen, but I can perhaps get that to him while we turn it over to Commissioner Surratt to introduce his C3R1, unless people have a massive objection to the R part, R1 part. Anyway, so let's give it a whirl.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lance, and thank you, Madam Chair. I also want to thank the Commission for their understanding and their patience. Commissioner Surratt, District 5, I do want to emphasize that the change that I sought to make after the packet was published does not grant new powers, but it does change procedure in a way that reflects the original intent that I wanted to introduce to you all this evening. I may have over-prepared for my introduction, but I want to hit all my notes, so here we go. Proposal C3 strengthens safeguards already provided in the charter so that accountability and continuity of government operate together in the public interest. The proposal addresses real problems. Today, the charter recognizes vacancy and suspension in a very limited way, but gaps remain when misconduct occurs that is related to elected office. Under existing language, many criminal offenses involving abuse of public trust do not trigger a vacancy, even when they directly undermine the performance of official duties. The charter also contains a suspension mechanism tied to felony charges, but how that suspension operates is not at all defined. All these gaps create uncertainty at precisely the moment when public confidence and government stability are most tested. And as criminal prosecutions can take a long time to resolve, the charter leaves the public without clarity on acting authority. The proposal seeks to remedy these issues. First, it clearly defines vacancy triggers related to criminality and further protects the public by strengthening those standards. It adds conviction of certain gross misdemeanors as a vacancy trigger when they involve misconduct connected to public office. And it does this by referencing Title 9A RCW, the Washington State Criminal Code, and Title 42 RCW, which addresses misconduct of public officers. This ensures that serious misconduct related to public office does not result in continued service by the convicted simply because their crimes do not rise to the level of a felony. It establishes a logical, ethical baseline that I believe should be enshrined in the charter itself, and that is convictions for felonies or serious abuse of office will result in the loss of that office. Finally, the proposal clarifies and enhances the charter's existing paid suspension mechanism. It defines when suspension is triggered to now include those aforementioned gross misdemeanors. It provides a clear framework for who can designate acting officers. It reinforces checks and balances during a sensitive moment and helps deliver legitimacy. It allows for continuity of executive branch operations, and it maintains separation of official powers by assigning temporary officers. I ask for your support on this proposal.
Thank you, Commissioner Sarden. Is there a legal report on this item?
There is, and this does seem to be within the authority of a charter county. You'll see in the packet that, and I think it starts on page 180, that I do include the RCW in state law for causes of vacancy, and that's just for informational purposes. And then also, state law does have the independently elected county officers have a deputy, and the deputy is authorized to perform all acts of the elected. So for example, the county auditor has a deputy auditor. I don't mention that in the legal report because this was one of the more recent changes, but anyway, happy to answer any questions.
Can you, sorry, I'll just clarify. Sorry, I'm still stuck on the procedures and I was trying so hard to get it right. I just wanted to clarify that legal was asked whether the R1 addition or swap out of language impacted their legal report, and as Ms. Blinn just stated, it did not. So the legal report that accompanied the document in your packet originally remains valid.
Commissioner O'Leary?
Thank you, Commissioner O'Leary, District 1. I'm a little confused. I'm going to ask for a little clarification. So Commissioner Blinn submitted a C3 proposal amendment to us. And now there's a C3 from Commissioner Surratt.
So all of those are from Commissioner Surratt. Glenn is our legal.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, that was DP, okay, all right. So when we get these, especially with revisions, is there a chance that we could either do a 1 of 1 or 2 of 2 identification, or at least put a date on it so that we're sure we're looking at the right ones? It would be helpful for me anyway. If nobody else needs it, that's fine, but it's just a suggestion.
So the tracking number at the top does say, it does have the R attached, if that's not.
I see the R,
Yeah.
but we've got C3R1, which I assume is revised one.
Right.
But there's no date to it, and there's nothing saying that there isn't a revision 2.
Right, I see what you're saying. Okay, gotcha.
As these come in, we've got 11 on the table approximately now. There's going to be more, and there'll probably be more revisions. It's just trying to keep it all straight.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I just,
I'm not trying to
no, you're fine.
I don't want extra work. I just want to make sure we're looking at the right one.
Okay, so thank you for that recommendation. I think anything that helps us all be on the same page is really helpful. And also there are a lot of things that we are trying to track right now. So any grace that y'all can have with us would be very much appreciated, but we always appreciate thoughts and recommendations as well. All right, so any brief discussion, again, as a reminder, this is just clarifying questions about the proposal itself, not deep discussion into any of the substantive parts of this proposal. I think Commissioner Molesky was first, and then Vice Chair Lance.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Molesky District 2. Commissioner Surratt, can you help clarify for me? I see it's been changed from appointee to acting officer. Can you give me a picture in regards to why you're using that term? And is it a temporary thing until the executive finds a permanent person in that position?
Well, presently the charter allows for a paid suspension of an elected individual, if they are charged with a felony, but does not provide any indication of what that exactly entails, at least within the charter itself. It's my intention for these positions that I've defined within my proposal that these would be filled in a temporary acting capacity until their suspension is resolved one way or another. Either the charges are dismissed, whether there's proceeds to trial and a conviction, or some other way that's resolved. So temporary acting officer, I felt that was the most legally viable pathway to ensuring that these protections are enshrined in the charters. That does not subordinate powers in a potentially unconstitutional manner.
I like that phrase. My last question, is my last, I only have two, right?
So yes, but other people who have their cards up, sorry, go first. So Vice Chair Lentz.
Thank you.
My question for Commissioner Surratt is whether C4R and C5R, which appear on page 182 of the online packet and 185 of the online packet, which are next for you to introduce on our agenda. If those three are dependent upon one another, and consideration of whether to sponsor or to move one on would depend on the others, or can they go separately?
Thank you for the question, Vice Chair. I think these can be considered separately, although ideally it would be my intention to have these bound up into a single proposal to send to the voters in November. But I do not think they can be independently considered and adopted. I will note, however, that C3 in particular does relate to a subsequent amendment I have now put forth within, and it's included in your packet, related to a deputy executive. So there is going to be relationships between my proposals that will need to be considered as we move forward in this process.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner Malowski.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Surratt, can you clarify for me or give me a picture of what you're trying to do? With the acting officer, is there a time frame of how long that person sits until they find a permanent person? What is the duration that the person has to make a decision for? Is there any type of time slot on that, or?
I mean, that's one of the issues, Commissioner, that I'm trying to address, is that this particularly momentous portion of our charter is rather ill-defined. There isn't very many, there is no articulation around what happens with the suspension of these officials. We have to pull in other parts of Washington law or perhaps county procedure. And so there's really a lot of lack of definition here with regards to, let's say in my proposal for a suspended executive branch official who's not the executive. It would be my thinking that this would be operationalized where deputies of the various elected official operate in their capacity until the executive makes their appointment and proceeds to give that person the powers and duties of that office for however the duration of that suspension is.
Great. Any other questions on C3R1? Commissioner Rohrer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question regarding number 1, what is it, 4? Where it talks about an elective official shall be suspended with pay upon information or indictment for a felony being filed against the official or the filing of a criminal charge for a gross misdemeanor. So I'm concerned about just due process. And can you speak to that in terms of just someone filing a criminal charge?
Thank you, Commissioner. Good question. I would offer that due process is maintained within these provisions because it simply mirrors what is already enshrined within our charter with regards to felony charges. So it simply expands the protections from felony charges to these gross misdemeanors who would be then subjecting this elected official to these paid suspension mechanism. Additionally, the filing of criminal charges, especially gross misdemeanor, is not something that generally is frivolous. These are very serious charges, and then it subjects the elected official to a prosecution that would subject the official to a prosecution. So this allows them to proceed with fighting their case during a paid suspension and allows them to continue to be paid and serve in their role, at least in name only, during the suspension. And of course, if they were to be acquitted of the charges or the charges dismissed, then they return to their role and the suspension concludes.
Seeing no other questions, we will move on to a call for sponsorship for proposal C3R1. Do I have at least do I have any sponsors for C34R1? So I see Commissioner Lakins, Consuelo, Strickling, Saran, and Prince, and myself. Oh, and sorry again.
And then online.
And online, we have Commissioner Layton and Commissioner Rydell Kelly. It looks like we have definitely met the four commissioner sponsorships. So thank you, everyone. Now we're moving on to C4R. Commissioner, tell us about C4R.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Surratt, District 5 again. No changes to reflect here beyond what is shown in your packet. Proposal C4 enhances the appointment process to require transparent and accountable procedures to fill vacant elected offices. And it also strives to obtain better partisan candidates. The problem this proposal addresses is that Section 4.0, which specifies who submits nominees when vacancies occur, provides very limited guidance on how appointments are conducted. The charter does not currently require common practices like public interviews, regular deliberation timelines, or explanations when appointments are very delayed. The risk is that in our deeply partisan times, the process can appear to be corrupted, weakening public trust in appointment decisions that should be made in the public interest. The process also does not request anything of the major parties beyond a list of names, and we can do better. We should at least seek more information about these individuals who could be running our government and have them clarify their intentions. Finally, the existing language is written very poorly, frankly, and it's confusing to me. So this proposal seeks to address these matters. It clarifies some of the old language in a helpful edit. It adds charter level standards for filling vacancies and sets a new floor for accountability. It requests a statement of interest and a resume from candidates, publication of application materials, timely public interviews, and so on and so forth. So to be clear, the changes preserve major party nomination rights and council discretion. This is already established under the law, but it also seeks to promote the nomination and selection of better partisan candidates, ensure appointment processes meet standards of openness and transparency, which I believe are already the expectation of the public, promote timely appointments, and seek to keep appointments local rather than deferring to the governor, because we can make a decision. I ask for your support for this proposal.
Thank you. Do we have a legal report on this item?
Yes, there is a legal report, and I believe that begins on page 184 of your packet. This does appear to be within the authority of a charter county. The process for filling vacancies in partisan office is largely governed by the state constitution. So it seems to add some details regarding how the council goes about that.
Wonderful, thank you. And now on to brief discussion, i.e. questions for Commissioner Surratt about the proposal. Commissioner Malowski.
Thank you. Commissioner Lasky, District 2. Commissioner Surratt, you mentioned in regards to public interview, correct me if I'm wrong, and so but mostly more transparency on the person that's going to be considering for position. Can you give me a better understanding of how that would look like? It doesn't matter if it's appointed or elected. To me, that's irrelevant. But the person filling that position, what does that look like in regards to public interview?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. I would offer that my amendment does not necessarily dictate the procedures for reviewing nominations and their materials. What it does is set a floor for that process and kind of provides a framework. And it keeps council in particular accountable to the decision-making process and accountable to the Constitution that requires them to make a selection from a list of 3 names. And if council is unable to make a selection from that list of 3 names, they should be able to express why that is. So with regards to the hosting of public meetings, the only thing I require or intend to require through this amendment proposal is that after a certain number of days, that meetings have to occur, or interviews rather have to occur. But if they happen before that time, then there would be no issue, if that perhaps answers your question.
Additional questions? Oh, Commissioner Willis. It's a microphone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Willis, District 3. A couple notes, Commissioner Stride. First of all, I'd like to say this is very well written. Thank you. It's very easy to read, and it does clear up a lot of ambiguity from the current charter that we have in front of us. So I just wanted to clarify that, I guess one of the bigger things that this amendment does here is, does this correct council deadlock when they fail to act in a enforceable position of time?
Commissioner, I think it's a great question. If you were to review a previous packet, you would see an original proposal that I had submitted, and unfortunately it was mixed as being unviable, perhaps unconstitutional, because it kind of interfered with council's ability and time frame to make decisions. Ideally, we would act more on council to prevent exactly that scenario from happening. But this is unfortunately, or fortunately perhaps, the best way I could go about, kind of leaning on council and the parties to submit good candidates and the council to make a good selection.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Rohrer.
Commissioner Rohrer. So I have a question because I was looking at the county rules of procedure. And in the county rules of procedure, it talks about the chief executive or the deputy chief of the executive office shall carry on with the official duties until the appointment is made by the legislative body. And so I feel like some of this stuff kind of is overlapping with what's in our rules of procedure. And then when in rules of procedure 1.28.180, it talks about when a vacancy occurs on the Pierce County Council as defined in section 4.70 parentheses 1 of the Pierce County Charter, and the County Central Committee of the appropriate party as designated in section 4.702 of the Pierce County Charter has submitted a list of 3 names to the council. The council shall interview each of the 3 people on the list in a regular or special meeting of the public. Discussions of the qualifications of the 3 candidates may be held by the council in executive session. Following the executive session, the chair of the council shall reconvene the special meeting and a resolution shall be introduced for the adoption of the majority of the council, appointing the new council member. And then it talks about when a vacancy occurs in a nonpartisan, non-judicial elective office, the council shall advertise that position in a newspaper of general circulation.
Is there a question?
Yeah. Well, I believe the rules of procedure speak to the current process, and it very much outlays what needs to happen within that 90-day timeline. And I guess
point of order, it's just, this is for questions for clarification, just to get the 4-vote threshold.
Okay, I'm just will take him. Thank you. Commissioner Rohrer, is there any additional?
I have a question. No, I probably don't. I just have concerns.
We will, if this moves on, you'll have lots of time in
Thank you.
discussion. Absolutely. Any other questions? Seeing none, I would like to call for sponsorship for C4R vacancies, and I see several, so I'm just gonna go, Clerk, do you need me to read out the? That would be helpful. Okay, great. So Likens, Boyd, Consuelo, Strickling, Surratt, Hunter, Rydell Kelly, Lance, Ginn, and Heatherington. Oh, and Commissioner Layton. All right, so that moves on, and we will have that for discussion on a future agenda. So that takes us to C5R. Commissioner Stroud.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Surratt, District 5. Proposal C5 adds new council oversight requirements that target the middle ground between inaction and removal in order to protect public resources, public trust, and institutional credibility. The problem being addressed by this proposal is that under the current charter, an elected official retains complete authority unless and until either a paid suspension or vacancy trigger event occurs. However, serious threats to governance and public confidence may arise before these thresholds are reached. The charter currently provides no structured response in these situations. This proposal seeks to target this gap. It requires disclosure when elected officials become subject to adverse actions affecting performance or public trust, which are then defined. It then authorizes and mandates that council conduct temporary, structured oversight measures such as periodic reporting, independent audits, compliance monitoring, or public briefings, the degree of oversight to be determined by council. It explicitly maintains that all discretionary authority is to rest with the elected official, and it limits oversight to 12 months unless renewed by resolution of the council. I believe this proposal is necessary to deliver oversight while respecting voter choice. I believe the public would support the actions outlined in this proposal, and I think they have already requested similar actions that are outlined in this proposal. And so for that, I ask for your support of the proposal.
Thank you. And do we have a legal report for this item?
Yes, it does seem to be within the authority of Charter County.
Thank you. All right, questions for Commissioner Stroud? Yes, Commissioner Ginn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Ginn, it says appointment of a compliance monitor. Can you share more about what that would be?
Not much, Commissioner, but thank you for the question. I am trying to capture as many potential oversight mechanisms as possible that can give council tools they need to do this work.
Commissioner Likens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Surratt, on the second to the last line, on number D, substantial findings by state ethics or disclosure authority. Do we have any further legal definition of what is quote unquote a substantial finding?
Thank you, Commissioner, for the question. At this time, no, and I unfortunately wavered on how to structure this. I could have made language say maybe final findings and determinations, but I'm very much open to debating how this proposal is structured, especially once it goes to the commission and ceases to be my amendment proposal.
Terrific, thank you.
Additional questions? Seeing none, I'd like to call for sponsorship for C5R vacancies. So I'm gonna go this way this time. Commissioner Ginn, Commissioner Rydell Kelly, Commissioner Hunter, Commissioner Surratt, Commissioner Strickling, Commissioner Consuelo, Commissioner Boyd, and Commissioner Likens, and Commissioner Lee. All right, and that also moves forward. So, thank you, Commissioner Surratt, for introducing all of your proposals. For Commissioner-sponsored public amendment proposals, as we discussed already, hopefully we will have a P1 ready very, very soon to engage in that process. So we're gonna move on to substantive discussion of amendment proposals previously advanced by 4 votes. And we're on to a second reading of C6, the preamble, sent to us by Commissioner Brophy. So we are on to discussion. As a reminder, following Robert's rules, we're not gonna have folks speak more than twice. And if someone has put up their card who has not spoken already, I will be prioritizing that speaker. But if there are specific questions to the proposer, we will let that person kind of skip the line so they can answer those questions. And it's on page 188 of your packet, if you'd like to be able to refer to it. And Commissioner Rohrer, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to say to start us off with discussion.
Thank you for your consideration.
All right, is there any discussion tonight on C6, the preamble? Seeing none, I would be very open to a motion to move forward this proposal.
Take a motion to move forward.
Second, we have a motion by Commissioner Malasky and a second by Commissioner Rohrer, I believe. Sorry, I just heard a voice. Yes. Okay. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor of moving Commissioner Rohre's proposal, C6 on the preamble onto our bucket of consideration at the end of our process, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
All abstained. And the proposal moves forward into our bucket for consideration at the end of our process. All right, thank you all. Now we're on to good of the order. Any particular good of the order items commissioners have? I know we've talked about a lot tonight. Commissioner Ginn.
Thank you, Commissioner. Again, just a question. We agreed to watch the parliamentary training video before next meeting. Can you clarify how to do that? Will you email that out?
What a wonderful question. I'm going to look up to our county staff, see if they can email that out to everyone. And we did see the video for moments on the screen, so the link does work. We'll make sure to get that out to you all ASAP. Commissioner Hetherington?
Commissioner Hetherington, I just want to thank Commissioner Wood for bringing the local food.
Yes. And I believe that there is an opportunity if other folks would like to bring food.
My card up to say if there are any volunteers for that.
Commissioner Boyd is saying if there are any volunteers, we would love that because it is very nice, especially on these long meetings, to have some food. Vice Chair Lentz.
Under good of the order, I just wanted to add that we've been trying to cut the housekeeping items much shorter or even eliminate them from the agenda. So to that end, the chair sent an email with some additional information about upcoming events, the speakers or the presenters that have been solidified, things like that. Just wanted to remind folks to please try to check your emails between receiving the packet and getting closer to the date of the meeting. And that's another way that we can try to push out information if there's been little changes between publication of the packet. Certainly anything substantive, we would want to also make sure the public has the opportunity to know. As I mentioned, we're working on that. But just to plug to check your email, I know that we don't always open those laptops.
Any other items for good of the order? Seeing none.
Motion to close.
I hear motion to adjourn and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. All abstained, none, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.